Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're uncovering how microscopic single cells team up to build the incredibly complex structures of plants and animals. If you've ever looked closely at a leaf, or even just stared at your own hand and wondered how it's actually put together at a microscopic level, well, you're in the exact right place. We're going to look at the ultimate architectural blueprints of nature.
Cells are the building blocks of living things. It's a simple idea, right? But think about it. Much like the individual bricks, steel beams, and glass panels used to construct a massive skyscraper, these microscopic units form the absolute foundation of all life on Earth. Nature literally joins these fundamental structural units together to create everything, from the simplest single-celled amoeba right up to incredibly complex, multi-layered organisms. To put the sheer scale of this natural construction into perspective, your own body relies on a massive, coordinated team of about 30 trillion of these cells. 30 trillion. Just think about the insane level of organization required to keep that many individual units working together in perfect harmony. It's the only reason you can breathe, move, and hang out with me for this explainer right now.
So here's how we're going to break down this complex biological blueprint today. First up, from cells to organisms. Then, the plant and animal divide. Third, exploring plant tissues, followed by animal tissues. And finally, biological inspiration for tomorrow.
All right, let's dive right into Section 1, from cells to organisms.
In complex life forms, a single cell rarely works entirely on its own. Instead, they group up. When structurally similar cells join forces, they become a specialized tissue. Those tissues then band together to form organs. Next, the organs collaborate to make up organ systems, and boom, together, they build a fully functioning multicellular organism.
Using the human stomach as a real-world example, you can see exactly how this hierarchy plays out. You start with individual, highly specialized cells. They link up, to form a tissue. That tissue then layers together to create the actual stomach organ itself. And of course, the stomach acts as just one crucial component of the entire digestive system, processing your food to keep your body fueled and moving. Moving right along to Section 2, the plant and animal divide.
Think about it. Plants are completely stationary, right? Meanwhile, animals are out there roaming and hunting. Because of this, their internal architecture has to reflect entirely different life goals. For plants, the primary component of their cells is tough cellulose. Since they're essentially anchored in one place, they need a simpler body organization, and their tissues are actually designed for continuous growth throughout their entire lives. Animals, on the other hand, are built primarily with protein. We expend immense energy moving around to find food, shelter, and mates. And because of that, we have a strictly limited growth period.
Let's zoom in a bit more in Section 3, exploring plant tissues.
Without the ability to, say, run away from danger or just walk over to a water source, a plant's tissue engineering has to be remarkably self-sufficient. Basically, their tissues split into two main teams, the actively dividing meristematic tissues and the mature permanent tissues. It's a super efficient division of labor. The meristematic side contains undifferentiated cells, whose absolute sole job is to actively divide. But once those cells mature, attain a definite shape, and take on a specific permanent role, like, structural support or food storage, they actually lose the power to divide. At that point, they graduate and become part of the permanent tissue team.
So the really crucial takeaway here is that a plant's ability to grow continuously throughout its entire life is driven entirely by these specialized dividing tissues. First, you've got apical meristems. These sit right at the tips of roots and shoots, constantly pushing them longer to reach deeper for water or higher for sunlight. Then there are lateral meristems, which act on the sides, increasing the girth or thickness of the stem. And finally, intercalary meristems. These guys elongate the nodes, which are essentially the spaces between the leaves. Together, they act as this relentless, never-ending construction crew for the plant world.
It is honestly fascinating to contrast the complex permanent tissues that make up a plant's internal plumbing, its vascular bundles. Take the xylem, for instance. It's essentially a network of dead, hollowed-out cells that form stiffened pipes, and their job is to forcefully transport water straight up, fighting against gravity. Then, right beside it, you have the phloem. These are mostly living cells that act like a bustling two-way highway, distributing the food created during photosynthesis in the leaves to wherever the plant might need it at that exact moment.
All right, let's switch gears and jump into Section 4, exploring animal tissues.
Now, when your survival depends on moving, sensing, and reacting, your tissues absolutely have to be dynamic. And it's so cool that human beings have been trying to categorize these bodily materials for thousands of years. Way back in the 2nd century BC, the famous ancient physician Chiraka identified 7 distinct body tissues, or dhatus, covering things like blood, muscle, and bone. Fast forward to 1801, and French anatomist Xavier Bichat makes this groundbreaking contribution by identifying 21 different types of human tissues. But today? Well, modern biology has beautifully streamlined all of that historical complexity down into just 4 broad foundational categories based entirely on their structure and function.
Those 4 modern foundational types are epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous tissue, and they are literally keeping you alive and sensing the world around you right this second. Epithelial tissue, that's your protective outer barrier. It covers your skin and lines your organs. Connective tissue, which includes things like bone, cartilage, and even blood, supports, binds, and transports materials throughout your body. Muscle tissue expands and contracts so you can physically get up and move. And finally, nervous tissue acts as your ultimate master control center, coordinating the whole shebang. To truly grasp how that nervous tissue team communicates, we have to talk about the synapse. This is the vital gap where chemical messages literally jump across to create your thoughts and reflexes. It's kind of mind-blowing to realize that your nervous system isn't just one long continuous wire. Instead, it's a massive network of individual cells, called neurons, that actually have these tiny microscopic gaps between them. The synapse is where the real transmission magic happens. It allows signals to be passed from one neuron to the next, controlling everything from a quick, involuntary muscle twitch to your most complex memories.
And a single neuron itself has a brilliantly complex structure. You've got the main cell body, which contains the nucleus, and then there are these short branching extensions called dendrites that act like antennas to receive incoming signals. But the real standout feature? That's the axon. It's this incredibly long, specialized cable covered in a fatty myelin sheath, and it is specifically designed to fire impulses rapidly to your muscles or to other neurons. It's essentially nature's version of high-speed internal broadband.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Biological Inspiration for Tomorrow. Knowing what we know now about the specialized teams of cells inside us, how might we replicate these natural properties to build the incredible machines of tomorrow? Think about it. If you were designing an artificial muscle for advanced robots, or high-tech body armor to protect the internal organs of astronauts in deep space, which human tissues would you take inspiration from? Would you try to mimic the tough, closely packed cells of epithelial tissue for a bulletproof outer suit? Or maybe you'd study the resilient, fibrous matrix of connective tissue to absorb massive shocks. The ultimate blueprints for perfect engineering are already inside us, flawlessly functioning day in and day out. The only question left is, how will we use them next?